Okay, the final component of Unit 7 is control costs. Here, the main thing we want to talk about is doing the earned value management. So let's take a look at that. The purpose of cost control is to make sure that we keep the cost baseline under control and that we do what we say we're going to do in terms of spending money. And if the cost baseline changes, then we have to make sure that we change the budget plan accordingly, and we do it in a controlled manner. So here, the things that we want to worry about are influencing factors that can change the cost baseline, ensuring that the requested changes are agreed upon, managing the actual changes, which can be complex, and assuring that cost overruns do not exceed authorized funding, and that's a biggie, monitoring and understanding what it means to have cost variances and what that means to the project, recording all changes against the cost baseline, and telling the stakeholders of those changes, and then acting to be sure cost overruns are contained. Some of our activities are, first of all, and the biggest one is monitoring the cost performance with earned value. Then we have to ensure that all approved changes are reported in the cost balance. We want to make sure that there are no unauthorized, incorrect, inappropriate costs from being incurred, and we have to inform the stakeholders of our progress or lack of it. So let's take a look at the inputs. The inputs are going to be the standard inputs we've seen before. The work performance data, we've already talked a little bit back in Units 4 about that. The work performance data includes things like deliverables that are done or left undone, cost authorized and incurred, estimates to complete the scheduled activities, and percentage of the scheduled activities completed. In terms of OPAs, any OPA guidelines that the organization has we can use, especially if they've mandated earned value, which is highly likely. Those are going to be our primary cost control tools. And we may have a cost change control system, which basically defines the procedures under which the cost baseline is to be changed. This will come from the cost management plan, and if it's different from the ICC, then it has to be detailed. And it's different in the sense that the forms and the authorizations are probably coming out of senior management and not out of the project team itself. So let's take a look at some of the tools and techniques, like the earned value management. That is a big one. And then the outputs for this are going to be the work performance information as to how we're doing, and then the cost forecast of how much it's going to cost to finish the project, change request updates, and that sort of thing. Now, the earned value analysis looks something like this. The plan value is what we said we were going to do when we made the plan. We were basically saying we're going to plan to do such and such. So if we have an activity like gather requirements, we're going to say that's going to cost $20,000. That's the plan value, and we make those estimates as we talked about previously. The earned value is what we get when we get sign-off for a particular deliverable. So if the plan value for requirements was $10,000, and we got the earned value that it was accepted and it was done correctly, then we would quote-unquote earn $10,000. Now you might think, well, aren't they the same? But they're not, because it might have taken us twice as much money to actually earn that value. We might have had to have spent $20,000 just to earn $10,000. So these are our three key values here: the plan value, the earned value, and the actual cost. Then we need to compute the estimate to complete. How much is it going to cost to complete the project? So now we're going to define a couple of variances and a couple of ratios. The cost variance is basically the earned value minus the actual cost. When you take a look at the cost variance, if that is positive or zero, we're in great shape. If it's negative, we're in bad shape. Positive, good; negative, bad. If it's negative, it means the actual costs are greater than the earned value. We're in deep yogurt. Same with the schedule variance. It's the earned value minus the plan value. If we're right on the S-curve, they will be identical. The schedule variance will be zero. If it's positive, it means we're earning more than we planned. We're ahead of schedule. If it's negative, we're behind schedule. We can also take a look at the cost performance index, which is the ratio of the earned value to the actual cost. If that ratio is about 1, it means that we're right on schedule. If it's greater than 1, we're ahead of schedule. If it's less than 1, we're running behind. The schedule performance index is sort of the same, earned value divided by planned value, same thing. Then we can take a look at the cumulative cost performance index. This basically is the sum of the earned value divided by the actual cost over a set of periods. Forecasting is a bit of a tricky situation. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to estimate the estimate to completion based on atypical situations. So if we've got, for example, the budget at completion, which is the estimate we said we were going to do, subtracting from all of the earned values that we've made up to this point, then that's going to be basically the estimate to complete in terms of cost. But if we've got a typical situation here and not an atypical situation, that we're running according to Hoyle, according to our plan, then basically the budget at completion minus the earned value divided by the CPI, this is the cost performance index, gives us an estimate. So for example, if we've got, let's say, $100,000 and we've earned $50,000, then we've got $50,000 to complete. If our CPI at this point was 0.5, then this would mean it would take basically $100,000 to complete, not the estimated $50,000. So we would be over budget by the original that we've earned here, $50,000, plus $100,000 to complete. The estimate at completion can also be defined to be the estimate to complete here, plus the actual cost spent so far. Or we can do an estimate at completion to be basically the amount spent so far, plus the budget at completion minus the earned value. If that is exceptional or atypical, or more likely, the money we spent so far, plus what's remaining, divided by the cost performance index. Now we can do the same calculations for the schedule. The to complete performance index is basically how much is it going to cost to actually finish this. And here we take the estimated actual cost minus the earned value divided by the estimate at completion minus the actual cost itself. And that gives us an estimate of the to complete performance index. And in fact, we can have the budget at completion instead of the estimate at completion. Finally, in terms of performance reviews, we can do a variance analysis, a trend analysis, we can use the earned value. All of these things will help us out. Our project management software like Microsoft Project automatically tracks the variance in the earned value and gives us estimates as to the budget at completion. Reserve analysis basically says how are we going to manage the two types of reserves. Remember, we have the project reserves that are part of the project budget, and we have management reserves that are beyond the project budget. If the risks happen and must be funded, do we have enough in the in-project reserves or the contingency funds? If we have, we'll draw out of them. If not, we need to go to the big boss and ask for high-level authorization to dip in the management reserve. And that's it for Budgetless.